Welcome to the Krypton Report podcast. I am one of your hosts. I am Tyler, the Superman of Blue, even though I'm in black today. And with me is James, the Superman of Red, the Man of Steel. And with us is our special guest, Levi, the Round Superman.
Hello, hello.
What's up? Welcome. Like, you've been on the show, the proper show, a couple of times, but usually Levi guests on a lot of our specials that you'll see on YouTube and here, sometimes over on the regular, but this is a proper regular episode that Levi is part of. I think the last regular episode that he joined us for was the finale of Superman and Lois, or was it the trailer for Superman 2025?
I think the trailer,
because we all had our shirts on and everything.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. But hey guys, how's it going? It's June and we're getting close, guys. Next month.
Yeah.
And I'm if you're not watching,
you know that
guys,
that second trailer that we've seen.
Woo,
oh man,
have to jump back to that episode. Just joking, guys. For behind the scenes, for people, like, we're recording a lot of these episodes early because I know that this summer I'm gonna be really busy, and just to kind of stay on track with things, we're recording our episodes out of order and prepping and everything. So some of the news that we talk about will be a little dated, but you'll be like, what the heck? But you know what? It's okay. So just a little behind the scenes thing, you know. But when the new trailer does come out, we'll drop that episode immediately as a, special show.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We expect it next week. So
we do.
But hey,
expect it next week, and I can't wait. Hopefully.
Getting into my routine of making these fun slideshow type PDFs for news, because it's much easier now instead of how I used to do it. Thank you, StreamYard. Here we go. Mark Waid is going to be taking over Action Comics, and these are some of the cover images of his upcoming Young Superman run. They didn't say Superboy, they said Young Superman. Which, okay, it seems cool. I mean, we got that little Superboy tease by Wade in what do you call it?
The Summer of Superman special.
Yeah, special. So I'm game. That's just one more super book, but it's Action Comics, so we'll talk about it, But
oh yeah,
I'm always up for some. Let's see here. Here's some little news. DC's All-Star Superman to be published in a new full cast audiobook. Production from DC and Penguin Random House Audio. Features cover art by Quietly, a full cast of 25 voices, an original music score, and sound effects. On sale June 24th. All right, fellas. One, they're really pushing All-Star. Like hardcore. And to me, this isn't the story that I would do this for. Like, I'm a casual fan of All-Star. I feel like it's a book that gets a lot more credit than it really deserves. There's good stuff in there, but you can go back and hear me and Jania talk about that back in February. But what I find interesting is I talked to James about this, is we have that new DC. I always forget the name. What is it, James?
What? The Showcase podcast?
No, the other one. Dang it, Tyler. I always forget the name because it's something weird. It's DC. Screw me for not remembering everything. Load. The High Volume DC podcast, where right now.
Oh, okay, yeah, the audio drama podcast.
Yeah, like right now they did 4 episodes for Batman Year One, which were really good, and then they started the Long Halloween, and I just think it's weird that they're doing this like this and then that like that, when I think dropping something with Superman related in that podcast after they did year one would have been the right choice.
Definitely. I mean, year one was really great. I listened to actually all 4 chapters today, so it was actually it was done really well. But that
I'm
story definitely fits the format. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm digging. I'll be honest, I am digging. Uh, what do you call it? Yeah, whatever that is that I can't think
The
of.
high
The
volume.
Long Halloween.
The Long Halloween. Yeah, I started chapter 1 today, but I didn't get very far in it before I had to stop.
So, but Levi, have you checked any of it out yet?
I haven't checked any of those out yet. The push on All Star, I'm kind of with you. I think All Star can be a bit overhyped sometimes. It's definitely one I'm hoping, and this I think Gunn has said this, that they're borrowing kind of the vibe of All Star Superman, which is if that's what they want to take, then great. If
I agree with this. Continue.
But I don't know how much story beats you'd want to incorporate unless I mean, there's the ever popular Superman talking to the suicidal teen that I could see potentially making it into a movie at some point. But
I would love to see that. I'd love to see a mixture of that and the one from Superman Grounded, which is my favorite. Um, it's a little bit longer. That's why it's my favorite. But yeah, I'm with you guys. I would
Yeah,
love.
I mean the Silver Age vibe, the Silver Age feel from All Star, is very present in the trailer. You know, we can see some influences there, um, and he's been open about wanting that to like draw from the Silver Age and stuff. And I think with his science fiction background, it's going to be pretty awesome in that regard.
But I mean, I'm gonna partake of this because I like this audio format stuff, but it's still just kind of like really, like you guys chose to do this, like instead of, I don't know, a
Well, I
different.
mean, selling it, but I think putting it on like the high volume, doing something like that for All Star, in the
Mhm.
same format that they did for year one and that they seem to be doing for Long Halloween. I'll listen to more over the weekend, but they should definitely have that come out before the movie. But kind of sucks that they're selling it this way instead of putting it out like they're doing on DC High Volume.
Yeah, I don't know. We will find out. So, all right. The other thing here on this slide is Super Mega Cakes, a Food Network competition series about making giant themed cakes. Will feature a Superman inspired challenge ahead of the release of James Gunn's Superman. 6 episodes premiere June 16th. Boys, thoughts?
I mean, cooking shows are fun. They can be really fun. So might be interesting to see what they do with some of this. Might be fun to watch, but like once you watch it once, you're like, that was cool.
Feeling good? I'm good. I'm good, guys. I'm good. So, all right. Here we go. We had this conversation a few episodes ago about which fast food restaurant is going to get Superman, and none of us mentioned Dairy Queen. But here we go. Dairy Queen is getting the Man of Steel with his cake batter cookie dough blizzard. It's going to be released on Memorial Day, so I'll be at the DQ. Then here's some better looks. I would definitely be asking them if I can get just an extra cup. I'll be, eating Dairy Queen. And as a man who used to work at Dairy Queen, this does excite me.
Yeah.
But here,
I mean, a
here's
cup and an
purple.
ice cream sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, an ice cream and a cup, and then, it just stinks because like I was really hoping for the like quote unquote Happy Meal toys, like really cool, like little Superman Happy Meal toys, and that's not happening. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
Dairy.
I had that thought. My wife is anti Happy Meals for our son, and I was like, "Ooh, but I bet I could, first Happy Meal get the Superman toy. I bet I can pitch that." But apparently not.
And what makes like how you talking about that? Man, the whole like changing movie dates and stuff is like through me, and I guess somehow me and the children missed the McDonald's window when they had these Super Pet toys, and I don't know how we missed it. Because I was trying to keep an eye out for it, but I know they came out because I've seen people post them online. But yeah, that really kind of sucked. So I had hoped, and with all the DC stuff that's come through Burger King, that was my pick. But no, Dairy Queen. So now we're gonna skip this because these were out of order because new stuff added. Look at this pop figure, Bullseye, the Target dog. Will have his own Superman special.
Do I collect the Target Funkos? No, but will I get this one if I can find it?
Yeah, yeah. And then this is dope as crap. This image was released today from Screen Rant. It's Superman in the fortress. Looks like he's talking to Crypto, and you can see the robots.
You can see robots. You can see stairs, like different levels. Looks kind of cool.
It looks awesome.
What I love about it is James Gunn keeps referring to Crypto as the worst dog ever.
Yeah.
And this picture definitely gives that vibe. Like it feels like Superman's asking him, like, what the hell was that?
Like, what are you doing, bro? And then today we'll talk about it. Peacemaker trailer. Here's our poster of Peacemaker and Eagly together. And then they announced it. John Cena was on NBC or NBA Inside. There's Shaq with the Peacemaker helmet. Classic. And then here's another really awesome shot of David looking up in Cleveland. And then the Superman Funko of the phone booth, fellas.
I think I posted about this on Instagram not that long ago. I love all the love Superman the movies is getting with merchandise this year. Like it has been years since we've got anything Superman the movie related.
I know. It's nice because we were getting hammered with Batman, the movie stuff.
Yeah.
And they're doing these Batman novels and stuff. I would love for them to come out with a continuation novelization that takes place after Superman 4, where he meets Supergirl, Helen Slater Supergirl, and do that novel. That if they're going to do these like cool continuations, that is a Superman novel that I would love for them to put out.
Yeah, that sounds like a great book that I would like to see, that I would like to read.
So, all right, fellas, I'll get to my last shot here in a second, but let's first talk about the Peacemaker trailer for season 2. Before we discuss it, what do you guys just think of overall?
Go ahead, Levi.
The vibe I still absolutely love. I think I like where it seems to be picking up. I'm not sure about the opening scene of the trailer, but we shall see.
That's called faster than a locomotive.
He's right there.
Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. It's Levi. All right, James, your thoughts on the trailer overall?
Oh man, there's a there's quite a bit to the trailer. It's got a lot of the same feel, you know. James Gunn, the characters, John Cena. Um, you know, it's awesome kind of to see, at least in the beginning. I don't know how it's going to fit together, but of the trailer, but there's some really cool, interesting bits to it. It looks like it's going to be hilarious and emotional, like the first season was.
Yep. And just so you guys know, when we record, I have my Facebook open because I on some of these Superman like collectors groups. This just popped up, fellas. Someone found kids' tennis shoes at Walmart that look like this. So that makes me happy, even though I can't wear them and they're too small for my children. Just that they exist for other kids makes me happy.
Yeah.
Okay. Spoilers for the Peacemaker trailer. Skip ahead a few minutes if you don't want to hear it, but here we go. Ready? 4, 3, 2. The opening, we get our first look at Maxwell Lord, played by Sean Gunn, sitting next to Guy Gardner and Hawkgirl.
Yep.
So it makes me wonder if that scene takes place, like, is this whole season going to be after Superman, or what if that takes place before Superman the movie? And then, the rest of the series picks up after or something. I don't know. I'm spitballing here.
Right. Well, we got Nathan Fillion and we got Isabella Merced at the beginning of the trailer. Like you said, sitting with Maxwell Lord, kind of interviewing Peacemaker. And I don't know if on purpose or not, calling him, saying that he sucks. And
They
he walks
basically
out
leave,
of there mean.
they leave their microphones on that he's not supposed to hear them. And he hears them.
Yeah.
And he calls them out on stuff. So that is a nice little, like, oh, we're in the DC universe. Dang, there it is. And then we see later in the trailer, we see him with the new suit, the longer sleeves, the full sleeves compared to the short sleeves that he's been wearing. And the dove is turned in a different direction. It's now up instead of down.
Right.
And then we learned that someone has a hard case of toxic masculinity.
Yeah, that was funny. And then she's punching the radio in her car.
It's hardcore.
Yeah.
And we see all of our favorites again, real quick. Talk about we saved the world, blah, blah, blah. What should we do? And I've watched it twice and it looks good. We get introduced that Rick Flag Sr. is now taking over Argus.
Yep.
And
From
he's the
Amanda
head of
Waller.
Argus. And, we hear Peacemaker say to Leota, do you think he knows that I killed his son? And she's like, yeah, he knows. So we know that tension is there. And that's good connective tissue with Frank Grillo, carrying over. And then we see John Cena in his underwear again, completing what I see people call the Peacemaker trilogy of his underwear and the Suicide Squad season 1 and now season 2. Little known fact, Levi, if you didn't know, that James is actually a stunt double for a Peacemaker in his underwear. They just deep fake, And then we see him. The biggest thing to take away from this is we see him open a door in the Pocket universe, and you got to watch it because he's in his underwear and everything when he opens the door, but then when it gets to the scene, it looks like he's in a different outfit. But then we get this. Hold on, I'm gonna get there. It looks like a different Peacemaker with a gun to him saying, "Who the F are you?" So what are you guys' thoughts on that?
I saw someone suggest that this is how it ends up in the DCU.
See, I've seen people say that, but my biggest comeback is if you take out that scene in the first season of Peacemaker when he sees the Justice League, everything else fits. There's nothing that doesn't fit out of place.
Yeah.
That is the only thing. Because my thing is, I'm watching. I got the trailer pulled up now. I'm just scrubbing for that scene. But if you look, he's in a t-shirt and his underwear when he opens that door. But then when we do the scene with the other Peacemaker, he's in a completely different t-shirt. So I don't know. We'll see. But my thing is, yeah. So is the whole universe like everybody's going to run through that door? You know what I'm saying? Like how he gets to the DC universe. Because I mean, if you really look at it and you think that certain characters, the DC universe being its own Earth, okay, certain characters like Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, Jai Courtney as Boomerang and stuff, Amanda Waller, we know she's staying. It works. You know what I'm saying? Like,
my pet theory is overall, everyone always thinks DC is going to build towards one of the crisis events, right? My pet theory is they're going to reconcile everything by doing Doomsday Clock, because Doomsday Clock involves Manhattan kind of smushing the universes together.
Doomsday Clock was really good.
And that's their way to bring back the different generations of movies.
I mean, they already did Crisis on TV, and like if you look how it's all connected, because they connect the TV universe to the movie universe and everything. It also depends on how many times people just want to splinter something. But I really look at things like if you didn't have that scene of the Justice League in the first season of Peacemaker, everything else would work. Suicide Squad.
I mean, it would basically, it would fit into another universe.
So the Suicide Squad into Peacemaker, Creature Commandos, Superman, everything would fit if you just didn't have that one scene. So
and I think he said there'll be an explanation for how it fits in this season. So
yeah, so I'm curious what it's going to be. I mean, I almost would be like, all right, let's go on HBO Max. Let's cut that scene out of it. Just you see him carrying her and you see like the shadows or something, and he just, is yelling and walks away. Or just insert like Economos being like, who are you talking to? As if he's imagining them there.
No, do it the real cheesy Smallville style way of have them doing a scene and then have like the shimmering effect come on screen, and then I'll be like, what just happened? And then it's Flashpoint. It's from the movie of Barry fucking with the timelines.
Yeah, there you go. And then just all of a sudden the field is empty. Oh, just go and tweak it. And then, because I just feel like, because if you don't have the connective tissue of the Suicide Squad, where, Rick Flag mentions his son dying, and if it's not supposed to be the same death we saw in the Suicide Squad, you really lose so much. Because you lose that tension of Peacemaker killing his son, how he dealt with it in the first season, with House of Pain, and how it's going to end up coming out. So right now my headcanon is the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker season 2, and Creature Commandos are all part of the DC universe.
I mean, they might as well.
So, but all right, today's topic, as we've been doing each previous month, we kind of touch on the previous iteration of, we're trying to do movies. We did TV kind of all in one. But today, my friends, is Henry Cavill, A Super Journey. So, 2004? Huh? 2013 to 2017? Yes. 2022 and 21?
Kind of.
Yeah, like, is it 2013 to 2022? Like, what are the exact date range? And we'll talk about it.
Man, last appearance on screen, honestly.
I know. It's his last appearance, but that's only if you watch the full credits. And if that scene wasn't in that movie, you could, if you wanted to put Black Adam in the DC universe, or Shazam 2, which I enjoy, but it has a lot of problems because you have Hardcourt Economos show up in that,
Right.
So, all right, here we go.
In a post credits.
Flyby 2. As we talked about last month, Brandon Routh auditioned for Superman Flyby, which then evolved into Superman Returns. And Henry Cavill also auditioned for Superman Flyby.
He was cast at one point, wasn't he?
It's so, dude, I have listened to some really good like fan put together documentaries on that era. It is so confusing because they have directors talk about at one point how they kept changing directors between McGee, Brett Ratner. They had a couple others in talk, and then it was like when everything fell through, Bryan Singer came in and then just changed everything to make it Superman Returns. And I mean, it is pretty nuts because I think as great as Brandon Routh is, I think one of the reasons he was cast was because Bryan Singer was trying to do make another Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
And Brandon has such a strong resemblance to him more so.
Yeah.
But look at Cavill right there. June 17th, 2004.
Man, 2004.
He would have been
9 years before he landed on the big screen as Superman.
And I'm just saying, like, that's crazy.
The first of his big misses, near misses.
I know. So, but here were two images that Zack Snyder released showing Henry Cavill in his audition, where they had him put the costume on of, it looks like one of Chris's in one shot. Another one, it looks like it looks almost like a Dean Cain one.
They're Chris's.
But it's supposed to
I think
be
it's just the lighting.
Yeah. And I remember reading an article that said there was, when he came out dressed like that, there's a difference between like someone dressed as Superman and then someone being Superman. And like Cavill had that energy. Now, if anybody listened to my rant that was posted at the end of an episode back last month, where I was talking about how they get these actors who are like skinny and everything and then bulk them up. It was part of my does Superman need to be shredded argument. Because Cavill's been the only Superman that's ever been jacked. Like everyone else has been like physically fit, toned, but Cavill was jacked. And I mean, everyone else has been muscular and their suits have not always, really shown that. But I mean, look at Cavill here. Like this would have been, I would have say, right around the time he shot Immortals. Because like that movie, because that movie came out in 2011. And I remember I went to see it. It looked good, but I basically went to see it because it had him in it. And it was like, oh, it wasn't him in a small role. I was like, all right, can this guy be Superman? What's up? And then I'm watching that movie and I'm watching that movie like, yeah, he's got this.
Yep, I did the exact same thing.
I was in the I'm watching this movie to prepare for another movie. Like, but yeah, he did
much as he did, coming off the physical training of Immortals. If he hadn't just done that, he couldn't do what he did for Superman.
I mean, he got. Go ahead, Levi.
His training for Immortals was insane too, because that movie got, I think it was 4 times that he was told they were going to start filming, and then they had to push the date. And they told him they weren't going to CGI his abs, and he had to keep a 6-pack the entire time. So if I remember it, he had to stay in that shape for like 3 or 4 years, because at any moment they could start filming.
Dang. But you know what?
That's tough.
We're like, that's tough. We're like,
I mean, he had great abs in that whole movie.
I mean, if someone got me in that shape, I'm pretty sure I'd, bust my butt to stay there. It's like what they say about like when you get signed on to Marvel. It's like you're gonna be in the best shape of your life,
right?
I mean, they gave Paul Rudd abs. I mean, come on. To be Ant-Man,
yeah,
like,
you get paid to work out and stay in shape.
I mean, that'd be cool. And then here it is, fellas. This was our first released photo of Man of Steel. What did you guys think about this?
I remember when this photo came out and staring at it and zooming in on, what would have this have been? It came out 2 years before the movie did, so like 2011.
Yeah, because originally the movie was slated for December of 2012.
Yeah, I remember zooming in and trying to like pick up every detail.
Because we saw the first teaser trailer with The Dark Knight Rises. And then and then that year Warner Brothers had done so well between The Dark Knight Rises and was it Harry Potter 7-1 or 6? I'm trying to remember. It was one of the Harry Potter, like they did so properly.
I can't remember, but 6 did very, very well.
So they pushed Man of Steel to summer of 2013. Which, I mean, I get it logistically, that makes sense. But yeah, it came out like 2011. I just remember, like Levi said, looking at this, and I was like, I was excited, blown away, and part of me was still like, that suit looks like almost like a snake skin from this angle and this lighting. But I was like, it does look a little dark.
Around this time was like when all the stuff was leaking out when they were filming in Plano. So I remember like looking at the set images and looking at this and just being like, this would have been right around the time I was starting to get into Superman. I was getting really into Smallville at this point. So it was like feeding into my hype of becoming a Superman fan.
This, this movie and stuff, just the transitional like time, because like Superman Returns really helped bring me back to, because I was in Smallville the whole time, but Superman Returns really helped elevate my fandom back because I had more accessibility to stuff. But when this came, this pushed it over to just more obsessive because it really was back in the limelight. I was excited. It's like I was excited because this felt like Superman, but at the same time, like it was something different. I didn't feel like I was getting the same thing that I was seeing on Smallville. And then, of course, Smallville, had ended in 2011. So it was
when this image came out, I was really excited. Henry Cavill coming off the Immortals, Zack Snyder, Christopher Nolan. I really liked Zack Snyder's visuals. We got Watchmen, and before that, we had still gotten 300 and Dawn of the Dead, and by that, I think he still did Legend of the Guardians.
The Owls of yeah.
Before
Because Janine and I were dating when that came out, and Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch
and
came out
Sucker
before
Punch, I think. Yeah.
Because
So I was really excited to see Superman like that, and then this image, just like the damage done to this massive safe. It's like this is going to be another level of strength and destruction that we're going to be seeing here.
It was a great way to indicate too that this movie was going to have action in it. Like this image screams like something is happening, like action is happening, because that was the complaint you always heard people talking about, like with Superman Returns, is like there's no action. He doesn't fight anything.
Oh yeah, we'll get there. We're going to talk about that. But the one thing that kind of bummed me out with this, and I know it sounds horrible, is Zack Snyder got a different DP. He was going to film it different. So like I was really expecting that Larry Fong style cinematography, which would then come for BVS, you know? So this really was a different look. And I remember, like Levi said, I followed Collider a lot back then. Like that was my site to go find stuff before we had, the apps and everything on smartphones.
I saw this on Screen Rant.
Yeah. So they just started. And then here we got, this is my collage of all the Man of Steel posters and the imagery. My favorite, honestly, is the one right here, his face in shadow. I like this one right here. But yeah, which ones you guys are your favorites?
I own two of them. So I've got the shadowed one, the initial teaser poster. That one's been hanging up in my bedroom. It's probably close to a decade now. And then I just this last 6 months got the bottom left second one in.
I've got flying one.
Yep, I've got the 27x40 theatrical.
Oh wow, nice.
I got this one of him standing right here. You can't see it right now. I can't even see it because I had to move a shelf in front of it. I just remember like seeing all these images, and that we'll get there, but like that first trailer, man. But
the shadow one, that was another when that came out, like zooming in on that and like obsessing over like the chainmail detail and like it.
Good.
For me, the shadow posters the first time, it was like, oh, this is really gonna be different. This isn't gonna be like spandex Superman we've seen before.
I mean, because even Brandon's suit felt like a spandex almost, even though it wasn't.
Yeah.
I really like the Man of Steel suit, other than I do think the blue's a little too dark. But a lot of that's, I think, the filters. I mean, it is darker, don't get me wrong, but it looked better in the small view scenes. So, but like this shot,
but behind the scenes, it's just a really deep blue.
Yeah, like this shot right here was always one of my favorites because it is from that. It's a behind the scenes shot. It's him actually wearing a cape. And I just think it always made the suit look better. And I didn't mind like the texture and stuff on the suit because it made sense, like what they were going for with this. I mean, I like this middle shot right here. He looks awesome, but it looks almost black in this middle.
Yeah, that one's very dark.
And I just remember, like, this was on a magazine cover I have. I was so excited.
I still have that one. It's in a box behind me.
I love the way that the symbol was done. Like, I like how it's a little bit different. So you still know it's Superman, but it is it has some originality to it for this iteration. I like the chainmail. Here is an image of the suit on a mannequin. Here's one of the test suits. And here's another test suit when they were working on how to present the symbol. I think that's pretty awesome to see. But like, I like seeing the suit on the mannequin because you really get to see like what it looked like. I think it's
They
important.
did make the suit though to look very statuesque, so that it looked a lot more like the version coming off of the comic page. Less a guy in a suit, less a guy in spandex.
And that's one thing I like about it, and that's one thing I've said about the new one is it is a suit, a uniform, something more than just being a costume. Like, this whole thing is very much tied to his heritage. It's their under, second skin they would wear, and they have armor and other things connected on top. It's like the first level of a battle suit. And I like I said, I like this suit, and we'll talk about like where it goes. But
Right? It's the flexible underlayer, but because it's made of a Kryptonian material, it's actually indestructible on Earth.
yeah, and here we go, fellas. Marketing and merchandise. Who was super excited? Okay, like Hardee's had the license for this. Hardee's, okay. Yes, there's a Hardee's by me, so it was dope. But Hardee's, or in some places, Carl's Jr. Is it Carl's
Neither
Jr. where
one.
you are, Levi?
It is Carl's Jr. up here, yeah.
There's neither one near me.
I'm sorry, James. When you come visit me next, we'll grab a burger at Hardee's. But I like these Movie Master figures. I went and bought this one, the regular Man of Steel. Like, I really liked it because it was a figure, right? But it was like that happy medium between one that you could actually get out and play with, or just collect it. How some of the McFarlanes feel like they're more like collectible figures and statuesque. And this one felt like this one you could buy for a kid. Like, hey, you could have this one, or they also had, the smaller ones too, and more toy figures.
I've got these. I bought those two specifically, both of them, and then I got Jarrell, Zod, and I think I ended up buying the Fiora as birthday presents to myself 2 or 3 years ago. So they're sealed in box still. I've got them packed away.
I went to a grocery store, and I was walking through this grocery store, and there was like this clearance table, and I walked by, and it was Jarrell and Fiora in their packaging in boxes for like $2. And I was like, yep, got these. I was like, and they're mine. But who remembers this? The Walmart premiere night.
I remember being upset I couldn't go.
That is the tickets that I got.
I mean, and the big thing was it was be the first to see the movie, a Walmart exclusive, Thursday, June 13th at 7 p.m. Now we start showing movies at like 3 o'clock on Thursday. Like I went to like, it wasn't midnight, but it was like later on opening day. Like I think maybe 10 or something. I don't remember. I remember going, but it was late, but it wasn't like the midnight. Because I saw Superman Returns at midnight, but they started like ticking it back. But like the whole 7 o'clock was like, dang it, man. Like I wanted to do it.
Oh no, that's the Walmart tickets. That's the tickets that I got, and I saw it that June 13th.
Now, if they really wanted to make this awesome, it would have been like whatever that Monday was. Like when I saw BVS on Monday when it opened on Thursday.
I just me and the wife took photos because we were dating and living together. Then we saw it the 15th, so 2 days after opening. And I've got the shirt and everything, Clark Kent glasses.
It was my favorite Superman shirt. My wife got me from Hot Topic. It was the symbol with the chainmail S, and it was super soft. Oh yeah, good job.
That shirt, I still have the shirt.
I
don't wear it anymore.
I have the symbol because the dog ripped it.
I wore my shirt out. I no longer have it anymore.
I was gonna wear the one that I bought to replace it, but I'm wearing my black shirt with the Man of Steel symbol, not the symbol on his chest, the poster symbol. This one right here. I'm wearing that today, and I see Levi's got a Man of Steel shirt on.
BVS, but yeah,
Yeah.
I kept the Hot Topic shirt because I know exactly the one you're talking about. And when it started wearing out and getting too cracked, I'm like, I'm still holding on to this. It's in we use like the Space Saver vacuum seal bags. So it is in one of those with some of my other favorite shirts that are too worn out, but I'm too attached to get rid of them. So who knows?
Nice.
10 years, maybe I'll get it out for the boy to wear.
There you go. There you go. Selah and Solomon had my mom when I was little. I'll see if I can I have a picture somewhere. I had my Superman pajama costume, and she took some sweatpants and cut them off and made my own pair of trunks to go with my costume because they were just blue pants with the PJs. And I put Solomon in that when he was little, part of his. I made him a really cool homemade cosplay John Kent style jacket when he was like 2, and I'd take him out in that. Like I had a cape on it, everything. It was awesome. But this movie came out at a really interesting time in my life. The last week's episode you guys listened to, you get to hear Brad talk about what it meant to him. But one thing for this with me is this came out a week before Ginny and I moved to North Carolina. And so I saw it, and during that time, like when I think about this movie, it takes me back to that summer in North Carolina, moving there. And because I had the soundtrack I listened to, I remember like unloading the moving truck and I was listening to the theme song to like help pump me up because I was like exhausted. And that's when it became my ringtone. That still is one of my ringtones for waking up in the morning. But then the first movie that Janine and I went and saw when we moved to North Carolina was went and saw Man of Steel for a second. Well, technically it would have been a third time, but it was a second time because we went to see it a second time. And halfway through the movie, we got a call from her mom. There was something that had happened and we had to leave the theater. But it just, when I think of Man of Steel, I think of that June and, that building up to it. Like it's building up to it. I got injured at work and I had bruised ribs and I was doing odd jobs that I had to sit out for and stuff. So that's when I first started listening to podcasts. And the first one I listened to was Fat Man on Batman. And just, so I was listening to that and I was gearing up for this, and it just got more and more exciting. Like it was a thrill. Like I was just pumped.
Yeah, this is one for me. Not so much when it came out, like the initial theater release was. I mean, I was hyped and I was excited, and it was instantly like favorite movie of all time for me. It was when it came out on Blu-ray and kind of that period after that, it became really important for me. We'll get personal. My grandfather committed suicide about a month after the Blu-ray came out, and me and my wife had been living together. We were long distance for the first part of our relationship, and when we moved in together, we worked not opposite schedules, but I worked retail and she had an office job. So my days off were always when she was at work. So this was the movie I put on all the time. And I'm talking like I was watching this probably 2 to 3 times a week for 6 months. So
it was your comfort movie.
It was my comfort movie. And it was one of those Superman struggles in it and overcomes. So if Superman can overcome shitty things happening to him, then there's no reason I can't. And that was really like the driving thought. It's still the movie I throw on when things get difficult for me. So it's one of those deeply personal ones for me.
So Jania and I learned that we were pregnant with our second pregnancy, and the projected date of birth would have been June 14th, 13th, or 15th. And I joked with Jania that if we had the baby on June 14th, she had to let me name it either Clark or Kal-El. And she would poke fun and be like, no, no, no. And then we had our second miscarriage a few months into it. And so that kind of always stuck with me, you know. And then when Solomon was born, we almost lost him when he was born. And the first night, Jania was asleep, and I had him doing kangaroo care in the chair, and he's just laying on my chest, sleeping. And I pull this up on my iPad, and I just watched this with him on my chest and everything. And that is part of why I don't like John Byrne's Man of Steel with Clark being born on Earth, because you lose something with the parents having just got their baby in their hands and having to give it up and basically put faith that their child will live. And it hits you so much harder as a parent, what they're doing. And I feel like you rob the story of something very precious when you do it the Byrne style. But it was a landmark film because, like I said, just the move, what Janine and I were dealing with, it was just a lot to take in. So.
I mean, yeah, I think it's a fantastic movie. The movie and the universe starts with his heartbeat when he's being born, and that's the beginning of the movie, the beginning of the entire DCEU, as it were.
Now,
and
you say that, and it's beautiful, articulated. But let's take a step back. This movie was not designed to start a universe. And that's one of the, you could say, flaws of it, is because they wanted to do with this Batman Begins for Superman. And that's kind of what this movie was supposed to be. But then they decided to throw in that Wayne thing on the satellite.
On the satellite, yeah, that's all in post.
That was done in post. And that, did you guys know that in one of the scripts for Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds, they wanted Henry Cavill to appear in a scene where the ring is searching and it goes past him, but it recognizes him as Kryptonian and keeps going. But Warner Brothers was like, nope, we don't want our movie to associate with this. This is something different. And then, because I think Green Lantern did poorly, the Nolan films were so strong, they had this as its own, but then they're like, oh, we need to start our cinematic universe. It's just interesting because,
right, which is something that I wanted to get into in this discussion, was the fact that, like, even at the time, it was everybody, even the theater goers, the general audience, was at this time, because this was post Avengers, was the future. So what happens next?
Which is good, because we need to keep in mind this is June 14th. It's released. So time for a sequel? Man of Steel 2? No. BVS. I always love this symbol. So July of 2013 at Comic-Con, they announce that the sequel basically to Man of Steel would be a Batman Superman film called, and that's all we knew, and it was going to be coming 2015.
The way they announced it, though, we knew exactly where it was heading, though.
We did.
Henry Lennox doing that reading still. I'll still go watch that. And it is, if they ever want him to voice a Batman in a movie, like an animated movie, I'd be all in.
Oh, they should, especially with all the like the podcasts and like they used to do that other like Audible stuff. Like
Yeah.
they had Winston Duke do Batman for one. The Harley Quinn with Christina Ricci was really good, and the Riddler one was really good too. Um, so 1 month, okay, Superman kind of had the light for himself for like a month, and then it became Batman and Superman, and this is where the hype for BVS starts.
Have you heard the story of how they came up with doing this? I know
I
Zack
mean,
Snyder's talked about it.
yeah, I've heard about it where he's talking about his idea was, oh, what if at the end you have Bruce Wayne getting a delivery of kryptonite? And he's like, and then once you kind of say that and you bring Batman on the table, you really
Yeah.
can't stop thinking about it. So this is 2013 now. And now I'm so hyped for a movie that still is 2 years at the time away. And then in August of 2013, we get the announcement that Ben Affleck will be Batman. And then we get, this is the first official image of the BVS suit. We got the quote unquote sad Batman leak. We got, and then it was it July of 2015 is when we saw that Wonder Woman image that was shown at Comic-Con. But then this is one of the, like, there's not a lot of great images to find of the BVS suit, of like the full suit. Like and we see him now as Clark. So what did you think of just that time, the BVS building up to and his suit here? Like, I mean, so much of my experience with North Carolina is wrapped up in the hype for this movie. I don't think there's ever been a movie I've been more hyped for in my entire life than BVS.
We'll get to the one I was more hyped for than BVS after this, but I remember like when the rain image came out, looking at him and being like, I thought he was big for Man of Steel, and he's bigger here. Like he is, I think, especially with how big Ben Affleck got for Batman, we sometimes underestimate like how physically imposing Henry Cavill was for Batman vs Superman. He
Yeah,
is
I mean,
massive.
that's the scene where he's in making breakfast and everything, and you see him, you're just like, dang, dude.
I remember them talking, the Clark Kent image, the costume designer said they had to custom make all his clothes because he was so big that nothing off the rack fit.
I
So,
don't believe that.
That's what they claim.
I say that because they're as big and tall, okay?
Big and tall, but
you know how big and tall fits, not
right. And that's the point of Clark Kent. Like, they made him still look cut as Clark Kent. They were like, oh, let's custom make this stuff so that he still looks good. You don't want Clark Kent to look quote unquote good.
I think it's hard when even in the behind the scenes photos, like that Henry would post of him training for Batman vs Superman and Justice League, because it was filmed so close to Batman vs Superman coming out. He's so big. I'm not sure how well you can hide that much muscle realistically with dress shirts.
Yeah.
Like at some point, something has to give.
You gotta hide. Like, you gotta layer up. But like, this is, this is time where like I had the social like media had like I had my smartphone. I started really pushing my Twitter and really different social medias and following everything for this, man. Podcasts of people talking about this, every leaked piece of news, every rumor, every image, dissecting it, listening to it, like listening to podcasts, like multiple, all talking about the same thing,
Yeah.
And just being so hyped and so obsessed, and
which was part of the crazy marketing push for this movie. Just like every single thing was discussed and even shared at one point.
Yeah.
They talked about Tyler Hoechlin had auditioned for Batman, and I started watching Teen Wolf to see him as actor. Like,
I watched Teen Wolf before those rumors, and I remember being very like upset in public when Ben Affleck was announced because Tyler didn't get it.
Yeah, but he did better. He won out in the end.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I remember when they were talking about Gal as Wonder Woman, or even the rumors of like Gina Carano. So I'm watching Fast and the Furious 6, like, this twig for real? Like, I mean, it was pretty obsessive. I could ask Jania. She probably like, yeah, he needed some serious help. But that first, okay, so the Jania and I signed up and we went to the movie theater to see the first teaser trailer. So we literally went to the theater for a 2-minute trailer. Now, what was awesome about that? One, we got special posters that I still have hanging up. Two, we signed up. We didn't know what it was for. Then this was in 2020. This was in 2015. We saw the teaser trailer in theaters before it leaked on the internet. And then in 2016, we got invited to see BVS 4 days before the public. And then when they were getting ready to release it on home media and they were going to release the extended edition, we got invited with free passes to see the extended edition in theaters.
I'm jealous.
So it was totally worth going to that trailer at movie theater, which I thought was just a really, like, it wasn't even the full trailer. It was a teaser. You know what I'm saying? And then a little personal.
Is that the one where it was just the rain and you saw like
you had
Ben
it start
Affleck in the suit and then him flying in the sky with the rain and the red eyes?
No, that was the,
Or is that the Comic-Con one?
that's the Comic-Con one. The teaser trailer is the one that starts with the statue, where it's like the camera's going in, and you hear all the voices, and it's like doom, doom, and then like the lights come on the statue.
Right.
Now, I was working for Verizon at this time, and I remember I got a phone call from a guy from Detroit who was having bad service, and he was actually working right by where they were filming some of the statue scenes. And I was like, "Oh, could you see anything? Tell me about it." Blah blah blah. Like, so that was interesting. And when the full trailer came out, which was July of 2015.
Yeah, like a full year almost before the thing was supposed to come out.
Yeah, I was in the hospital. The only time I ever had to stay at the hospital, I had a massive panic attack, but I wasn't sure it was a panic attack, like just stress-induced panic that I just had, like, my chest hurt so bad. They were monitoring me. I didn't know what it was, and I remember waking up with my phone and seeing a thing about the trailer and just watching it on my phone, like, just like obsessed, man, like so bad. But this costume, they make some changes. They add, the belt's a little different. It's more classic. The boots are a little bit more classic. You have the light blue on the side now. And then, of course, there's more detail in the symbol with the Kryptonian text being woven in. What'd you think about this suit?
I love it, and I love the Kryptonian text in the BVS suit. The Joseph Campbell quote that they translated, I really like and enjoy, and I think it illustrates really well. I mean, BVS is one of those movies where we can find, if there's a theme you want to find in it, you can find a theme.
Mm-hmm.
But the hero's journey, and whether you agree with how Zach and the writers did that or not, they definitely, over the course of 3 movies, take Cal on a hero's journey.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as he said Joseph Campbell, I was like, Joseph Campbell. I went down a rabbit hole with Joseph Campbell. I always liked right here. It's hard to see, but like how there's that thin outer line of a different shade of blue around this symbol on the suit.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I didn't get for this slideshow, I'm pretty pissed at myself for. I don't think I did. Nope, I didn't. Was the cereal. I liked that cereal.
The cereal was good. The box was even better.
I know I like the box. I still have one somewhere. But this poster right here of Superman with the rip of Batman, and then the Batman version, those were what they gave us that night.
Oh, nice.
Now I have the theatrical poster of the two staring at each other. I like that. And I remember being at work when they officially announced that the movie was Batman v Superman, not versus. That was always one thing that annoyed the crap out of me. Dawn of Justice. And I just got like thinking, like, man, I don't want to see them fight. It's like watching my wife and my brother fight. And then I was like, that's a huge title. And I remember listening to Ralph Garman on one of the Kevin Smith podcasts, just like break it apart. Like, why is it such a long title? Like, and then we got these posters right here.
I've got the middle bottom one. I've got that whole series. I've got the Batman, the Wonder Woman, and the Superman.
But then you see that BVS over the course of 2 and 3 years was tasked with this job of being the second film in this franchise, but really being the first film to expand into a connected universe.
So yeah, like it's the second film.
And
This is really the film that creates the universe. Yeah.
yeah, and they're just like put in everything.
And I remember, the marketing for this, like that first trailer for that first official trailer for Man of Steel was really breathtaking. Like when he's walking on the ice and you see Krypton. I worked third shift at that time. And I remember waking up and there was a text from my wife saying, hey, they released the trailer. Pull it up on YouTube. So I woke up and like it had been on YouTube and I just remember watching it like, wow. And just being like, and then they did trailers and stuff, but it was like, they just kept pumping out images, trailers, TV spots. And like, it was giving too much away, especially a certain character. And then like here, the merchandise. I bought this toy here for Solomon. He had the 12-inch figures. I have Jania got me. I still have it. It's all it's like really thin, but in December of 2015, they released at Hot Topic a BVS teaser shirt, which was just a gray t-shirt with the symbol on it. I still have it. And the one thing that perplexed me that kind of was crazy was how much they pushed Aquaman for BVS. There was merchandise and costumes and toys, and then we got that, Unite the Seven Seas or whatever first Aquaman image.
The marketing, and we can get into a debate over the movie itself and the quality and what it did, but the marketing made you think, and the title of the movie leads you to think it's going to be something other than what it was. They announced, Gal's playing Wonder Woman, Jason's playing Aquaman, we're going to have Flash. Obviously, there's Batman and Superman. It's called Dawn of Justice. I mean, they really didn't hide that it was going to be Doomsday. So everyone, by the time we get to the movie release, you're sitting here like, oh, we're going to see the Justice League. Like, not even we're going to see them, we're going to see the Justice League fight Doomsday. So I think the marketing didn't do them any favors with expectations.
Well, I remember like thinking, okay, so Batman and Superman will probably fight at the midpoint of the film, and then they'll get together and have to battle Doomsday. And I didn't really think, oh, they're going to kill him. And my brother was like, then why else would you bring Doomsday in it? And I was like, well, good point. So that was something that always kind of hit me. Was when I saw the film, realizing how much of that final battle um, of Batman fighting Superman was in so much of the trailers when you piece it all together.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I pretty much seen almost this whole battle if I would just edit every released thing that had come out. So that was kind of sad.
which was pretty disappointing. And then the release of this movie comes, and you get 2.5 hours, a lot of stuff cut out, mostly Clark and Superman stuff cut out,
Yep.
and then immediately they announced that they're going to have a movie, a edition of the movie with 30 extra minutes.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, awesome.
I think, and I remember that too, because the weekend it came out, I was going camping. So I bought it and downloaded it before I left so I could watch it when everyone else was sleeping.
Smart.
And the problem, I think, becomes, and I say this as someone who absolutely adores this movie, the big complaints I remember hearing is like, there's no Superman in this. There's no Clark Kent. It's because all the stuff ended up on the cutting room floor. And then you talk to people who don't like the theatrical version of BVS and you convince them to watch the Ultimate Edition. They're like, I like that movie.
Yeah.
That movie's better. And it's like, so why wasn't that the one in theaters?
Exactly. I haven't watched the theatrical cut since I saw it in theaters.
Same. I won't.
Me either.
And my biggest issue with, I feel like in a lot of this movie, what came out, and it was so much of like Batman, 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 you know, and this is only what at this point it would be 12 to 4 years now since we had The Dark Knight. And I mean, I remember those rumors too, that they were just going to have Christian Bale be Batman and come over for this before they announced Affleck. And I felt like it was very Batman centric.
Oh, yeah.
And Superman got pushed to the back. And then my thing was, I wanted to see Superman interact with people, but all those were kind of like montage type scenes. Superman only like really interacts with like Lois, Batman, and Lex, and then Wonder Woman. You know what I'm saying? But like, you don't. It's always isolated. Even Clark feels very isolated in his interaction with people.
I think some ways that's intentional. I think in some ways showing him interacting with people in isolation, whether it's Clark or Superman doing it, is reflective of Superman's state of mind in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the Superman focus that did make it into the theatrical cut is him being uncomfortable with hero worship.
Yeah.
Which I think is also a critique of the fandom in a lot of ways too. But it's one of the themes that resonates with me for Superman in this one is the fear of the godlike being. The scene with Lex talking about, you know, God is tribal. If God is all powerful, then God cannot be all good. And if God is all good, God cannot be all powerful. And I think for Superman, I think that's his struggle in this movie is, what am I supposed to do? Because this isn't the Marlon Brando Jor-El who told him, oh, you're here to do X, Y, and Z. His dad was kind of just like, yeah, we sent you here because we knew you'd survive. Like,
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah. So all this hype is going on. Here we are, 2016. And then we know that in 2017, we're getting the Justice League, because before this movie is released, the day after the Grant Gustin TV series premieres to the highest numbers that the CW had, they announce Ezra Miller as a Flash, Ray Fisher as Cyborg. We already knew that Momoa was Aquaman, and then we're building to 2017 WB's Justice League.
See, this is my most hyped movie of all time. This is the movie that nearly imploded my brain with the hype I had.
I would say that I'm there with you, but like there was a more, because I kind of just rolled into this from the BVS obsession, but the BVS obsession started right when Man of Steel, like that July,
Yeah.
because so much of this was overlay with the BVS. But here are some images of Superman
Oof.
and
Oh,
Warner Brothers,
oh man.
and
The
this was
bubble.
what was rough. Was there was so much promotion for the Justice League, where there's only 6 members, first of all, and they were trying to promote this movie as if we didn't know that Superman was going to come back.
Yeah.
So it was so heavy on just that. And now there are some scenes. I have an edit somewhere on my hard drive of just the Superman scenes that are good from this. And that's probably like my favorite parts is I do like Cavill's delivery. I do like what he does. It's it makes me smile. It's not perfect, but it was nice to see him.
It was never what he did as Superman in either version. It was what they did to him.
Right. Like, I mean, I like the line, I believe in truth, but I'm also a big fan of justice. I don't care. I like that line. I don't care what anyone says.
I'll go a step further. I like the opening scene of Justice League 2017. And if you take out the Bumblebee lip, where he looks like he got stung on the lip, he's talking to 2 kids and he's telling them to have hope. It is the most Superman thing. It just sucks that they had to CGI out a mustache. I mean,
and I remember them saying like they were going to pay, that Warner Brothers would pay for the CG for Henry Cavill's mustache if they had to do Fallout reshoots.
Not just they would pay for it, they showed how easy it was to put a mustache on someone with CG, is what they sent them with the offer.
And they were like, no. Paramount was like, no. And I'm just like, dude, Paramount just, you kind of just did them dirty. Like you could have been like, sure, And
they took such a that top middle image. They took such a beautiful man and made him look something. He's a person that is
barely.
It is so bad.
I mean,
and I like I said, I like the opening scene of the movie, but as soon as he turned and faced the camera, I was like, oh no.
And I remember Jania and I went to see this. We had to get, a babysitter, and I had just started a new job, and I wasn't sure if I was going to get out of training in time to go. And I was so like pissed. Like I was ready to be like, okay, how can I get out of this? Like, I'm risking my new job.
You're so excited for a Justice League movie, and for us in the know as well. Like we knew that there was a change in directorship of director of the movie because of circumstances with Zack Snyder and his family, and somebody else took the reins of this movie. And you heard some things, some rumblings behind the scenes, and then you go in like, hopefully we can blend 2 styles and get something interesting. And then he turns and faces the camera, and immediately you're like, oh no.
Everybody was like,
what are they doing? What happened?
My wife was so upset. Like that first scene, like we both kind of looked at each other and like out loud in theater, like, oh no.
I just remember sitting there, and there was one point Jania had to get up and use the bathroom and miss some, and I just remember like we were like, okay, this is Justice League, like it's gonna be so awesome. Like they got Joss Whedon to come in and help out, and I just remember watching it and being like, thinking of wait, because I followed all the marketing for this, And I had every time any trailer, TV spot, or even the AT&T specials, I would find them online and download them. So I had this huge collection of like footage. And I remember sitting there like, wait, where was this?
Yeah.
Where's this? What was this? And I'm like sitting there like, wait a minute. They talked about Cyborg being the heart of this movie. Where is this?
He's barely in this movie.
And just remember sitting back and being like, did I like this? I think so, because it's, my characters and there's parts that I really enjoy. But I was like, something just feels off. And we all, of course, learn, a why. But it was just a big letdown.
The thing that honestly is like the thing that upsets me, not the most, but it's like one of those, just these images on the screen. I had to pull it up. That Justice League suit, it's more or less the Batman vs Superman suit, but they changed the blue, right? And that's always the complaint you hear about the Man of Steel suit, the Batman vs Superman suit. They're like, it's too dark, it's too dark. The Justice League suit, when it's properly lit, is absolutely stunning.
And it was made like to be able to be like, I can't remember how the term, but they talked about it was made so that they could tint it or whatever, because that's where the black suit came in. Was this suit colored black?
There's the deleted scene that's in Zack Snyder's cut where he flies and meets Alfred. And that scene, the suit is so absolutely perfect. And then you get like the bottom right second image in where that whoever came and worked with Joss to do the reshoots did not know how to light that suit. And it almost looks greenish somehow. Like it is just so bad. Or you get like they don't know how to light it in the post-credit scene with the Flash. So all the reflective material underneath the suit is shining through because it's so overexposed.
It's because it's the first time, I think, in that whole film that it's in outdoor lighting. It's not in a stage being controlled. Like it's outdoor lighting. And yeah, it just looks, because like it looks off. And I just remember when they released it on home video, they added that scene with Alfred and everything. And then that was it, guys. 2017, Justice League is out. What's, Aquaman, the movie's coming. We hear rumors of a Man of Steel 2. And then this is what we're left with. Is this the end or not? See how I did this? Oh, look.
Nice.
In 2020, we are announced on HBO Max. We will be getting Zack Snyder's Justice League. And yes, there's a whole history of pushing for the Snyder Cut, people talking about the footage, all that, blah, blah, blah. We know. And then here we go. Here are some images from that film of Henry in the black suit. And the black suit's cool. I mean, it works. It does its thing that it needs to. I think part of the thing with like the black suit and really pushing it, even if that's not what they wanted to go with, was because it did help separate the imagery from what had come before. So when you saw this, you knew, okay, this is something different. And it sucks that this film didn't get a theatrical wide release, because I would have really liked to have seen it in theaters instead of just watching it on HBO Max.
Yeah, by far the absolutely superior film.
I was one of the lucky people. I got chosen for the fan premiere of Zack Snyder's Justice League, so I got the early streaming access.
Oh, nice.
Shout out to Jason LeBoy for hooking me up with that. He was the one who put in the good word with me with his Warner Brother contacts.
Nice.
So I got to see it a bit early, and this is one of those movies. I don't often watch the entire 4 hours, but I'll throw on the second disc that starts at the halfway point and kind of watch it as its own separate movie, which picks up right before the resurrection. And I mean, obviously, because it's mostly Superman stuff from there on out that I'm excited for. But I love the things they did do with Superman in this, even though he's not in it a ton. But
Yeah, he's not, and that's what sucks. But everything he puts in it, he does, and you're like, wow, this is so good. And like, you just watch that film, and you're like, and this was weird because it was like having a whole new film, but it's not really acknowledged because it's like this crazy alternate cut, and it was only on streaming. And we could get into like how COVID actually helped us get the Snyder cut.
yeah,
Because
in the Snyder cut, it made a ton of money on physical media release all around the world.
and merchandise, man.
And that's the other thing.
Merchandise.
Like, they pushed it. Like, we got McFarlane figures, we got shirts, like there was merchandise and everything for it was almost treated like a new film's release. And this showed you like what a great Superman that Henry was. And so that's 2021. And then in 2022, we got this appearance in Black Adam. And it's so weird because
and an announcement.
Yeah.
that from Henry that he was back. And because I mean they were kind of pushing Superman to the back burner. Like Man of Steel 2 was still not a priority. Like they made a Black Adam movie over Man of Steel 2.
Do you remember
Right.
how the internet exploded around that time?
Yes.
And not just like the typical Snyder boy fandom, like the legitimate number one trending on topic for Twitter for days was Henry Cavill as Superman again. Like this wasn't the diehards at this point.
So I mean,
everyone.
So think about that from 2017 to 2022. That whole time frame, you know, Henry's like, I got the cape, it's in the closet. That's when he entered that weird lull, much like what Brandon Routh looked at, where he was Superman until he wasn't. And, you know, we can get into all the behind the scenes we've talked about before of what happened, but just, you know, he shows up at the end of Black Adam. They even try to use the John Williams music. And I remember being so excited in theaters when that happened. And I'm sitting there with my wife and kids and like, yeah.
I'm man enough to admit I cried in theaters when he walked out. Like
I was cheering. I was so excited. And then that sadly was Henry's last theatrical appearance as Superman. And I mean, theatrically, it's 2017 to 2022. So Warner Brothers Justice League to Black Adam. And then this is the shit that they gave us. You know, sorry, I usually don't cuss
in between.
What I call the fake outs. The fake out here in Shazam because they couldn't work out to have Henry make a cameo in Shazam. So they used the stunt double here. The shadow, you know, Superman from Peacemaker, which we addressed earlier. And, you know, so, you know, it's like 2013 to 2022, I guess you could say, you know, was Cavill's run at time as Superman. And it just,
yeah.
And I remember like being like, I wanted Cavill to still be Superman, but I didn't hate when they said that what they were going to do and they announced David as Superman. I didn't hate like, oh, stupid. because I know how the movie business works. I get it, but I still wanted Cavill to, to really get his due because he was really good in the role, but just the movies didn't always serve him.
Yeah. With as badly as Henry got screwed, I mean, Brandon Ruff got screwed even harder when it came to his time as Superman.
So here's the little thing here. Continue, James, and we'll pull this up here.
But man, it's a pretty close second. Like you said, some of the movies did him a bit of a disservice. He was cut out of BVS a lot. Justice League 2017, they reshot and deformed him with the CGI. And then the amazing comeback that was Zack Snyder's Justice League and the incredible response from his cameo in Black Adam and the announcement that he made, only for the rug to be swept out from under him.
And I think what's interesting too is you hear like Chris McQuarrie talked about it, who worked with him on his Mission Impossible movie, is they called Warner Brothers, him and Henry, while they were filming that. And they're like, we have an idea for a Man of Steel movie, and they couldn't even get a meeting.
Yeah.
So like Warner Brothers made it very clear for 5 years that like, we want nothing to do with you.
Yeah. We don't really know what we want with you, with Superman. And what sucks is like when they made Man of Steel, it felt like they really wanted to make a Superman product. But then when they were like got to BVS, like the idea of bringing back Batman again, it's like, we'll just use this to launch Batman and push Superman out because we're gonna make our money on Batman.
Well, it's like
money.
Like you said when we were talking about the scrap post credits teaser for Man of Steel. Like once you bring up Batman, that genie doesn't go back in the bottle when it comes to DC. I mean, we joke about it all the time. For every Superman product we get, 5 Batman products come out. So as soon as you mention Batman, of course the studio is going to say, yes, let's do Batman.
The last Batman made us $1 billion. And then there was supposed to be, when they did the Black Adam cameo, there was supposed to be the proposed cameo that would have had Henry Cavill and Sasha Calle at the end of The Flash. It was supposed to be one of the endings. Was going to have the two of them, and then at one point it was just going to be her, because we saw the behind the scenes footage, and then they officially did not do anything with him. But this is what I always think is interesting right here. I think these two movies will forever kind of be linked as the opposites. Superman Returns gets criticized for not taking risks, does nothing new story-wise. Brandon gets ridiculed for trying to emulate Christopher Reeve, has minimal action sequences. Man of Steel gets criticized for taking risks, does something new story-wise. Henry gets ridiculed for not emulating Christopher Reeve, has too many action sequences. And there's your problem right there. Is Man of Steel in some ways felt like a rebuttal against Superman Returns. And though I feel like they're always kind of on this pendulum of each other. And
Superman Returns, it lacks action, but then it's criticized for not living up to Christopher Reeve. And then on the opposite side, like I said, too much action. And then is ridiculed for not trying to be Christopher Reeve. It's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's not fair to both of them that a chunk of the fan base, and really only a general audience perspective, honestly, where it's only Christopher Reeve can be a version of Superman.
And I think as someone who came to their Superman fandom in their 20s, right? So my introduction to Superman was really Smallville. That was the first thing that I got super into. And then the Elseworlds, Superman, Earth One graphic novels, and Man of Steel.
Right.
Those are my gateways into Superman. So I see Man of Steel, and I'm like, okay, this is, it's not very Smallville-like, but Earth One and Superman, those are very similar. And so I look back at like the Chris Reeves movies and we did our rankings of the movies the other week. Those aren't my Superman movies. Those aren't the ones I grew up with. So when I would see people criticizing Henry for not being Chris, it's like, well, yeah, Chris's Superman doesn't work in an action movie like this.
But you never hear the same arguments backwards. You don't hear, oh man, Christian Bale's not being Michael Keaton. Like, and it's so funny. Like, you didn't hear like, oh man, Batman's not wearing the trunks. You're just like, okay, cool, black Batman suit. That's sweet. It's like these two characters, like Batman's given room to grow, but Superman, like, nope, gotta stay right here, bro.
I think Superman in a lot of ways, and I think Doomsday Clock shows this, Superman's almost like the fixed point of DC, where whether he's involved directly in a story or not, Superman is the fixed point. Superman doesn't change. Things around Superman change, but Superman is always the moral compass of the DC universe. So I think people, even if you change something as simple as getting rid of the trunks, which you hear Zack Snyder and Henry Cavill talk about, like, we tried 1,000 different versions of trunks and none of them worked for this story. People still look at Superman and go, he doesn't have his trunks, and that's Superman.
Mm-hmm. I think the best version still is how they did on My Adventures with Superman. Like, his suit didn't have the trunks, and then his mom was like, you need something. And then Martha makes the trunks. I think that's a happy medium of having Martha contribute to the suit and having the suit kind of being
Kryptonian in origin.
Yeah. So,
but then at that point, by the time you make My Adventures with Superman, you've got a little 20/20 hindsight.
Yeah, you do.
I think it's awesome. Not to go into the trunks debate, because every Superman show somehow devolves into a trunks debate. But I think it's interesting. It's one of the cases I think story wins out when it comes to the trunk debate, because you don't hear that with Tyler's Superman suit. So I think it's, if you don't like Henry as Superman, or you don't like Man of Steel or Batman vs Superman, then the trunks is just another point you can pile on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't like the story and they don't have the trunks, but if Superman and Lois is one of the best versions of Superman we've ever seen, the trunks doesn't matter because you're enjoying the show too much to hate on it.
It's true. All right. As we wrap up here, it's a sore spot. I did find one other thing to share. So, as I posted the other day, I guess there are now 2 Hawaiian shirts at Walmart. I'm gonna go look for the second one, the blue, but I definitely have seen the symbol one. And there are also flip-flops that have been spotted at Walmart as well. So there you go, fellas. There's some merch out there. But sadly, the Cavil era has ended, but that's just the nature of things. Continue, change, and we have what we have.
It was interesting, though, I think, because we're in this time of the fandom wanting a series of films, character development throughout, and what was the next thing. There was always kind of a future, looking at moving forward. And it's funny how Henry Cavill's Superman is given, somewhat of an arc, even though they rushed it, with the death and the resurrection. But that was for his arc as a savior, the hero's journey, and less the character arc. But he did get that character arc through Man of Steel, and then into BVS, and then during his resurrection. But
And I think the problem
They never
you know,
give it that he didn't. He got shortchanged on that. You know, it was like he was supposed to be Superman out the gate. He wasn't supposed to grow into being Superman. And
I think
even
that's the
when they
problem.
say all of the, then when they show you, and then they show you even more about how many people he saved in the last 18 months, close to 2 years. It's like Superman didn't save people. And it's like plastered all over the place that he did.
And the problem is the story wanted to evolve Superman into the character that we know, but people didn't want to give it time to be that character. You know, they didn't want to see that's that's the kind of mindset you see on a TV show. Like, oh, that's where you take your time and evolve the character and make it grow. But on film, it's like, oh, it's got to be perfect right there.
Well,
Right.
I think part of it goes back to Superman the movie, where his father dies. He travels up to the Arctic and then emerges 10 years later
Yeah.
as a fully formed and perfect Superman. Whereas this one went the birthright route of like, he's gonna travel the world and do stuff and make mistakes, and then I like my Superman to be a bit more flawed, and I think some people prefer the perfect savior.
Yeah. The journey of Henry Cavill's Superman was summed up pretty perfectly in one of the montages of questioning Superman and calling him a messiah and all these different things, but asking the question if he's simply just a man trying to do the right thing.
Yep. And that's a great place to leave it. Levi, thanks for being here with us today. We're going to have you back next month for when we do our review of Superman 2025.
Yes, sir.
All right. And remember,